Question we got from a conference where we were talking about the Bitcoin and ETH investment theses centered around this 21 million supply cap, this supply cap on Bitcoin of 21 million, which is what we talk about quite a lot when we talk about the store of value or inflation hedge investment thesis, right? If there's 21 million Bitcoin that will ever be in existence and the amount of fiat currency or currencies like the dollar in the world goes up and the supply of Bitcoin is not going to go up, we know what the supply is going to end at. That's what drives this idea of Bitcoin as a store of value. The question is, okay, can the 21 million be changed or is it really hard coded? And the answer is not that simple. The answer is not a simple yes or no. But if you wanted me to break it down, the answer is yes, technically that number of 21 million can be changed. But before you jump to any conclusions, before you go, okay, well, that just ends that investment thesis, here's what has to happen for that number of 21 million to be changed. One, the number of 21 million is arrived at because there's an issuance policy on Bitcoin that says for the first roughly 4 years of Bitcoin's existence, as people were connecting their computers and processing transactions on the Bitcoin network, there are a group of transactions called a block processed every 10 minutes. And whichever computer, whichever miner wins the right to process that block gets Bitcoin as a reward. That's kind of how Bitcoin works as a reward system, as an incentive system. We have to get people to connect their computers and process transactions. We give Bitcoin as a reward. It gets rewarded every 10 minutes. For the first 4 years, the issuance policy was there are 50 new Bitcoin awarded every 10 minutes to whoever wins the right to process that block of transactions. But the policy also stated that every roughly 4 years, it's actually a certain number of blocks, but every roughly 4 years, that reward would get cut in half. So after 4 years, it moved down to 25, and then it moved down to 12 and a half, and it's 6 and a quarter currently. Next year, it'll go down to 3 and an eighth. We call it the halving or the halvening. What happens is after a certain number of years, if you keep halving and halving and halving, then you eventually approach this number of 21 million. You won't ever actually get there, but you'll get really close to it. That'll be a limit. And in roughly the year 2140, we'll get near that number. All that to say, yes, that number of 21 million can be changed. Yes, we can technically change the issuance policy, but to understand why that doesn't deter me from talking about Bitcoin as a store of value, you have to understand the incentive mechanisms and how the process works. So in order for the number to be changed or the issuance policy to be changed, someone would have to submit a Bitcoin improvement proposal, BIP. That would have to be discussed, talked about among all these core Bitcoin core developers, among all these people that are very vital to the Bitcoin infrastructure, would have to discuss it. And then it would have to get to a point where it could potentially get implemented and voted on. And the way it's voted on is all the miners, all those people, all the people, companies, entities, whoever that have all these computers that are processing the transactions would have to vote yes or no. Now, if they were to vote yes to increase the supply, initially you might think, well, if the price of Bitcoin is $100,000, of course they're going to increase the supply. Of course they're going to want to increase the issuance policy so that they can win more as a reward. But the problem with that is the value of Bitcoin has been based on this number of 21 million. It's been based on the fact that we know the issuance policy. If we change it one time so that the miners or someone can have more Bitcoin out there, then that's going to show that we can change it over and over again, and it's going to completely lose value. It's going to lose probably all its value because so much of it is based on the idea that we're not going to change those things. So the miners know that. The core developers know that, and they have zero incentive to increase the number of Bitcoin because that would drive the price all the way down, probably to at or near zero. So no one has the incentive. And now we especially see where the likes of some of these companies that are potentially going to have ETFs, they might be mining Bitcoin. So we might see BlackRock, we might see Fidelity, Franklin Templeton mining Bitcoin. They might be doing it already. They're certainly not going to vote to increase the supply because that hurts the value of their ETFs. So the incentive structure is there to say, look, you can change it if you want to. We don't think you will. And it's kind of a pure form of capitalism. You can vote for this. You know what the consequences will likely be. And therefore, we don't think you will because the incentives are so bad for you to actually increase the supply. So in technical terms, yes, the supply can be increased. In realistic, logical terms, it likely won't be increased. The process it has to go to, the number of people, companies that have a say on the vote that are likely not going to vote for that is incredible, and therefore it won't happen. So as a financial advisor, you have to know to be able to have those conversations with clients and not say, look, the number is hard capped at 21 million. It absolutely positively can't ever change. No, it can change, but there's no incentive to do so. There's no incentive to change it, because increasing the number it's not that it will cut the value in half. It'll probably cut the value to zero. It will cease to have a whole lot of value if we've cut that number once. So that's my thoughts on that 21 million supply cap of Bitcoin.